Hello, my name's Eleazar.
And I'm Neal. And if you're listening to this in the future, you probably, we're not going to say the name of the podcast because we don't really know quite yet. Um,
Ain't that the truth?
but if you're watching it, you probably know the name of it. So just look at the title of the channel. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Apparently, I'm reacting to some Warhammer Fantasy lore.
Indeedly do. Today I will be teaching you about the greatest asshole to ever exist in the Warhammer Fantasy, Nagash.
What a
Now,
lovely
Neil,
name.
I know, right? It just sounds like such a nice person. Tell me, what do you know about Nagash from what we have played from Total Warhammer and you have heard me gush about?
Well, he's one of the end game crises in that game, Total Warhammer 3. Um, apparently, he's part of the Tomb King faction. Is that right?
Uh, Close on both accounts. While technically the
He's
two games,
undead, right? At least I got that
yeah,
right.
he's undead. That part's right. He's the first necromancer, the first lich, and semi-responsible for vampires, but also not.
Okay.
It's weird, but yeah, Nagash is like the progenitor of a lot of bullshit that happens throughout Warhammer Fantasy.
Okay.
Like, really, he's kind of the worst guy possible, but you're gonna really see why he's also so fucking endearing. He's
Hmm.
like almost Megamind villain, like not even Megamind, because at least Megamind was a good guy. No, he's just presentation the fucking villain. Like he'll be doing the most assholish things possible
Hmm.
just for fucking the meme of it, just for the joke. All right,
What a
so I'll
wizard.
begin with his story, since he did, as you say correctly, start off his life as a prince of the Tomb Kings,
Okay.
or more specifically, the nation of Khemri. Because
Gotcha.
the way the entire area works, it's like a bunch of kings, all under the leadership of one like king of kings, which was Nagash. Well, not really Nagash, Nagash's father. You see,
Okay.
Nagash was born first in line, but in Khmer society, they firstborn, they really don't they get sent to the mortuary cult. They really
Hmm.
don't get to become kings.
Okay, so
You
there's like
see what
another honor that they get to do.
Yeah, they get to become the mortuary priests, which Cetra, we'll get to him eventually, I'm certain, because he's awesome. Basically, right as he died, he's basically Alexander the Great of Warhammer Fantasy. Before he died, he was like, "Oh shit, I'm mortal. I'm gonna die. Okay, mummify me and look for like a cure to death, and then revive me with like a perfect golden body, so I may continue conquering and kicking ass again."
Okay.
So yeah, whenever the firstborn for Khmer society, they would always go to the mortuary cult to try to figure out how to do this entire like, oh, this is how you become immortal. We can get uh fucking what's his name again? I completely forgot his name.
Nagash.
No, not Nagash. Nagash was the mortuary, the guy you just said. He's one of my
Cetra?
favorite characters. Yeah, Setra. How the hell did I mind blank on him? But yeah,
Cetra.
Setra, just wake Setra's ass up.
Okay,
So
so that society has been searching for immortality for a long time.
yeah, for like thousands of years. Like he Nagash, okay, so yeah, Nagash's brother, who was born a couple years after him,
Hmm.
whose
So the
name
second son.
yeah, the second son, he was given, he was the one who was taught how to basically was
Made the
brought
heir
in.
for the kingdom.
Yeah, he was made the heir. His name was Thutep.
Okay.
So Nagash really didn't like Thutep, as you can imagine. Like Nagash was a petty, villainous asshole from day one. Like how,
Hmm.
like for example, one time Nagash was pissed off at his brother's ruling style. Out of nowhere, he just walked up and socked like an attendant, a servant, out of nowhere, just pow. Didn't even do anything wrong. Nagash just felt petty at that moment, just and decided to punch him.
Classic bourgeoisie.
Yeah, so Nagash was basically always angry that his brother got chosen. But one day, like there were some lizardmen attacking the Kemrian like nation. So Nagash's
And you're
father,
speaking my language.
yeah, there you go. I know you would like lizardmen.
I like
But
lizards.
yeah, so yeah, Nagash's father went and go defeated the lizards, and then Nagash also went and like managed to retake a city. And this is the bad part. Nagash, after he took a city, Like he won a fight against the Lizardmen, took over a city, and was basically ruling it for like 6 months. And this is where he got his first taste of power. And this was like where he's like, oh yeah, this is what could have happened if only I was born like second. How the fuck dare Thutep be born? So he was pretty pissed about that. One day his father got assassinated, and like Nagash, the mortuary cult also understands magic because the Kemrian society has a pact with their gods. This will be a matter of relevant, but yeah, Thutep married the priestess. Basically, as long as a certain bloodline is married to the king of Kemri, the gods will bestow protection and magic and all that.
Okay.
So Nagash didn't really like having to have his magic come from a source that wasn't himself. So once he figured out like, oh shit, my dad was murdered, I could tell this is magic, but I don't really understand what kind of magic this is. But it's definitely basically it was dark magic. Then some envoys from a neighboring kingdom decided, hey, we captured these three elves. You can have them as tribute and sacrifices. And Nagash was like, huh, I can kind of detect a little bit of magic here. I'm feeling a little something. So he's like, yeah, so hand over those three. Yeah. So he's like, hand over those prisoners. I got this, bruv. Nagash takes him to his father's tomb because he basically embalmed it. He filled it with a bunch of traps and was like, okay, bitches, we're turning this into Hogwarts. You're going to teach me everything. But yeah. So Nagash basically was being taught and Nagash, for all of his faults, is incredibly intelligent. Like Nagash is just smart. Like this dude is a genius.
And by the way, I did have a question. You said he was sent to a priesthood
Yeah.
mortuary. It sounds like they would, are they the ones studying that try to get the secrets to immortality?
Yes. They are the ones who are starting to learn immortality.
Yeah, I wonder if that could ever, turn against them or their society.
Weirdly enough, it really didn't. Like they learned how to extend.
They're all dead now, aren't they?
That was due to Nagash, not because of their teaching.
Okay, so
weirdly,
that's stuff we haven't gotten to yet.
Exactly. Like the entire society will die purely because Nagash. So I'm gonna post a picture of what Nagash looks like soon, just so you get a general idea of what this dude looked like at his peak.
Ah, I see.
Like you can look at him and you could just hear the people chanting Emotep, Emotep.
Yeah, getting real Ramses II vibes.
Exactly.
Let my people go.
That too. There we go. But yeah, Nagash. So basically, the Dark Elves are teaching him how to use dark magic, and he was like applying it differently with his mortuary cult. So he's like, I can mix the two. They were also teaching about the winds of magic and how humans really can't tap into the full power of the winds of magic, but like elves can, because they can only tap into one. Like you've seen Warhammer Vermintide.
Yeah.
You know how Sienna can only cast fire magic?
Okay.
That's because it's an innate like problem with humans. They can't access the full powers. Like an elven mage can like do fire spells. They can do death spells. Not death, but like gray magic. It's called high magic for them. If they're high elves, dark magic. If it's dark elves, but since these were dark elves that Nagash caught, it's dark magic.
Okay.
There's like subtle differences of why it's high and dark, but we'll go into that for their own separate video. And the Lizardmen, which I know your boys, also do high magic, since it was the Lizardmen who taught elves in like the before times about how to use magic. Naturally. Yeah, of course, naturally. So the Nagash was basically being studied by these mages. Well, essentially by the Dark Elves. One day the Dark Elves are like, fine, we've been wined and dined enough. I think it's time for our breakout. They tried breaking out. Nagash found out about this, and right as they were at the exit, Nagash was like T-posing and saying, all right, you three fuckers have only one choice. Beat my ass, or I'm going to devour your souls. And these were, so they were like, it's just a single human. How bad can this be? Nagash immediately devoured their souls and whipped their asses.
Damn.
Like, Yeah, no, it was pretty awful. So Nagash basically at this point, basically from the elves, he picked up how to learn necromancy, which they
Hmm.
didn't teach him. He just invented it. He learned how to avoid getting omnom by chaos because that's what an issue that happens when you use magic, especially when you don't have your god's protection like Nagash doesn't really by using this magic.
Hmm.
He also learned more about the history. But yeah,
I
it's
was gonna say the dark elves that taught him were they devoted to any specific like
Chaos
chaos
God?
god?
No, 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 no. Unlike Warhammer 40k, one of the things I really like about Warhammer Fantasy is not everything relates back to chaos.
Okay, yeah, I kind of agree.
So yeah, it's one of the strengths. I really don't like how they do that in like 40k and Age of Sigmar, but this is one of the settings where chaos is mostly like, yeah, it'll have its own dedicated stuff, but it won't really intrude on other people's stories.
Okay, gotcha. So he kind of got his secrets from the group he joined
Not the group he
eventually.
joined, the group he captured.
Oh, well,
Yeah, he
well, I'm talking about the priest that he was sent to.
Oh yeah. He learned stuff from there, Nekaharan magic, basically. That if you play the Tomb Kings, they got their own lore,
Hmm.
which they could cast since it's unique to them.
Okay,
But since it's bestowed upon them by their own gods.
okay.
So the nanosecond Nagash is out. He basically out of one of the things he learned to do was make an elixir of eternal life, create out of human blood,
Hmm.
which allowed him to stay alive through death, even if his body like degraded. He also learned how to split his soul a bit and like give it into pieces into objects, which he created the 9 books of Nagash. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he made
Da,
his
da,
own
da,
books.
da, da,
Yeah,
da.
the similarities end there, I promise.
Okay,
But yeah, he basically also made the
but he's
crown of
bald too, right?
sorcery. Oh yeah, he's bald. He made the crown of sorcery. Like Nagash will, and if Nagash makes an item, you can like be assured that he imparts a bit of himself
Hmm.
into it just purely so he can dick over anybody who either has the item or there's always a way to bring him back.
Yeah, because it sounds like it retains his will.
Exactly. Which the Crown of Sorcery gets into some shenanigans, but that'll be another video. Like there's one
Hmm.
particular funny story where an orc picked it up and led a fucking a wah so devastating it nearly destroyed the empire. So you just imagine like this big orc and it's constantly getting like, okay, now use this maneuver to flank this empire soldier. Then you're gonna cast this death magic that I'm gonna teach you how to use into that battalion over there. And then the orc's just like, what is this noise? Simpleton, just do what I say. Oh, okay. Like they were constantly bickering. It was hilarious. But that
So
crown also got onto Sigmar's hands, but that'll get later on.
okay. So at this point, does Nagash have like his own forces? Has he like taken over his country or what?
Not yet. He's been just chilling out while his brother's been ruling. He's just been very spiteful and just learn. I mean, at this point, he's just been like, okay, my brother's in charge. I'm just gonna pretend to be a good mortuary cult, and like by night, I'm gonna practice like with the dark elves and learn how to use magic, whatever they're gonna teach me. They didn't teach him correctly, to be honest. They taught him enough that he could like see that he's improving, but not wrong enough that he couldn't improve.
Hmm.
Like they tried teaching him wrong on purpose so he wouldn't become too powerful.
They
But
taught him
he
incorrectly
understood,
as a joke.
yeah, exactly. But he understood the fundamentals even without them teaching him. So he was able just to expand on the incorrect knowledge and go like, oh, that doesn't seem right. I'll make this more efficient my way,
Hmm.
which was in turn was actually the correct way.
So kind of just to get good or get
Exactly.
yeah. Okay.
So eventually, over time, after he basically murdered the elves, he met with several disgruntled military officers and nobles including a certain base boy we call Arkin. You're gonna hear a lot about Arkin, the Black. You can even play him in Total Warhammer 2.
Hmm.
He is one of my. I know I'm gonna be saying this a lot this video, but I like the Death faction in like all Warhammer Fantasy the most, so they have a lot of my favorite characters. I love Arkin. He is Nagash's number 2, but in a weird way, despite being Nagash's number 2, he's a much better person than Nagash is because he still retains nobility and like just this weariness about him. Like, oh, I really don't like serving Nagash, but what chance or what really options do I have?
Gotcha. So he's like a reluctant.
Not entirely reluctant because he did like willingly at first join him, because the reason why Arkin the Black is called Arkin the Black is not because he's edgy. It's because he was a lower tier nobility. Like he was basically the Kemrian equivalent of middle class, so he's never really ever gonna get anywhere that far. And he had this habit of chewing on this tobacco that darkened his teeth. That's why he was called Arkin the Black.
Oh wow, that's actually a lot less cool than I thought it would be.
Exactly. Like I mean, eventually became like, oh my god, it's Arkin the Black. It's like, he became cool. Not many people remember the time where he was just some like whore, like basically in a whorehouse, uh, being basically a vagrant.
Gotcha.
Like it's ancient history to everyone else, but to him, it's like, yeah, that was definitely part of my life. I mean, dude, it got so disgusting. Prostitutes would charge him extra.
Oh my.
Yeah. But yeah, so he basically grabbed a bunch of people. He gave Arkin the Black a sip of the elixir of immortality, which was the first person to really take it.
Where'd he get that?
Nagash gave it to him because
Well, did
basically
Nagash create it?
Nagash created it and then gave some to Arkin.
Okay, so he kind of like discovered a way to make a philosopher's stone, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. He basically he gave it some to Arkin, some other military officers, but Arkin was the first and the best.
Gotcha.
Like Arkin really picked up the study because Nagash was basically building himself a little cult around himself to overthrow his overthrow his brother.
Okay.
Thutep was warned by his vizier, though, of Nagash's experiments in dark magic investigating. Nagash was basically at this point disappearing people, sacrificing them, just doing all this heinous shit. So he like brought him in one day, and Thutep's like, "Hey, brother, you're an asshole." And Nagash is like, "Oh wow, what took you so long, idiot?" And then murdered like Thutep's entire guard except Thutep. And then Nagash basically dragged him to like where the pyramid they entombed his father and threw him in and said, "Enjoy your stay with father forever," and then just shut the door on him forever.
I had a
And so
small
that's
hope
how
there that he wasn't going to become a kinslayer, but then he did that.
that is literally the least of Nagash's crimes. Nagash goes far worse. So after entombing his dad alive, he basically threw himself. He basically became king due to lack of no other heir. And Nagash really liked Thutep's wife. Her name was Nephirim. She is described as the only woman Nagash was ever attracted to. Not in love. There is a distinction. Attracted to. She was basically used. He sexually assaulted her.
What a quality guy.
Exactly. That was her sole purpose. She knew it. Everyone else knew it. Nagash like tormented his nephew, which was her son. Like he was literally awful to her.
Classic evil uncle trope.
But he still married her because he wanted to keep the covenant with the gods so Nekaharans could have their magic still. As long so basically that's how
poor
kept
Nagash.
her alive. Not even poor Nagash. I mean, it's poor everyone else to be who's even remotely in the same area as Nagash. So Nagash basically started ruling the kingdom, started securing his throne. He also eventually murdered his nephew and then gave a variant of the elixir of immortality to his now wife, aka his brother's widow, to make her an undead sex slave.
Yikes.
Yeah, the best part is he basically told her like, drink this elixir, because obviously I'm not gonna be, no one with a sane mind would be like, yeah, I'll drink anything you give me, Nagash. No, she was like, no, get this, I promise not to hurt your son after you drink this. Of course, he already killed him before and used his soul to make the drink. So technically, his asshole already hurt him. He can't hurt him again afterwards.
Yo.
So yeah, Nagash also then started to make the biggest pyramid in like Nekaharan history, called the Black Pyramid. It's that giant floating black pyramid you see in Total Warhammer. Here's a picture of it.
Hmm. Just trying
He was
to
basically
copy the Lizardmen.
not even copy the Lizardman. He was technically copying Cetra, who had the first and best and biggest pyramid.
So he
So he
copied the
was
copy.
essentially, I guess, if you wanted to say that. But he was building it. He was
It
using
is
it as
most
well as a
certainly a
like.
style.
It is a style. I fucking dig it. But yeah, he was basically using the Black Pyramid to channel his necromancy energy and raise like armies of undead.
Okay.
Like he
Good
then also
purpose.
was like just
Like
continuing
conspiracy
with his
theorists in our day think.
exactly. So he was also grabbing like just continuing with the blood rituals, mass sacrifices, construction of this pyramid. Like this pyramid was so huge. Like this place, Nekahara, Kemri,
Hmm.
was so fabulously wealthy, like wealthy beyond even measure. And by Nagash's reign, he turned it into basically the slums of Chicago with like how much debt everyone is. So many people died building this pyramid. What was once like the most like one of the most wealthy human kingdoms just became ran down. And like all the Kemrian lords and kings were like, wow, I fucking hate that Nagash guy. Let's go kick his ass.
I mean, I was just
So
waiting for it to happen at this point.
yeah. So Nagash surprisingly was like, wow, why are they attacking me? That's so weird. I'm Nagash. Why would you even bother? Well, I guess I could use more sacrifices or
I'm so
corpses.
cool. I must be right.
Exactly. Nagash is like a massive narcissist. So nothing is ever Nagash's fault. Everything that goes wrong in Nagash's life is obviously the fault of incompetent minions or the world trying to work its best against him. It's the world's fault that he was born first. It was his dad's fault that that stupid law was in place and that his brother got to be king.
You
Like
know,
what
classic victim mindset.
exactly? And too bad he has the ambition and the fucking know-how to really just change his lot in life. So the Kemrians essentially assembled 7 armies to go and kick his ass, and Nagash raised armies of the undead. No Nekaharan, Kemrian, nobody has ever seen undead at this point, like armies of skeletons.
Hmm.
So a lot of soldiers started like just running away because death was considered sacred. It was
Hmm.
they had a form of ancestor worship with the pyramids and all. So to them,
Well, that's interesting.
attacking these skeletons was like basically sacrilege, which Nagash was counting on. Nagash really didn't give a shit.
Gotcha.
So
So
yes,
he's a blasphemer as well.
yeah. Like if I had like the time, I could probably list all of Nagash's crimes, but I'm pretty sure I'd be here for like half an hour,
Hmm.
and that's only in Warhammer Fantasy, not even getting into Age of Sigmar. Spoilers alert: he survives the end of the world.
Of course he does. It's
You
always the
really,
worst
yeah,
ones.
it always is the worst ones. So while hundreds fled, like from the undead armies, a lot of them stayed. Necroharans just didn't give a shit and were like, it doesn't matter. Tyranny must end now. And they bought some like thunder sticks or dragon spears or dragon staffs from Cathay, with aka
Hmm.
guns. They also had like flying blimps they bought from Cathay with guns attached. So Nagash is like, huh, that's weird. My undead those things make a loud pew pew noise and my dead fall down. Wonder that's new. Is that some sort of magic?
Might as well be.
Yeah, so basically the 7 armies sieged the city that Nagash was at. It was really brutal. Like they were sieging like I don't know how you out attrition the undead, but they were. Arkin the Black was like leading his armies because
Hmm.
Arkin the Black's a G like that.
And at
So
this point, these undead are just because what you've told me about previously about the undead and for the
mhm.
Tomb Kings is that they're still themselves, right?
These are not Tomb Kings yet. The Tomb Kings
Okay.
are alive. This is
Okay.
before you're gonna throughout the story you're gonna learn how they became the Tomb Kings, but
So
they
these are
became
more like
Tomb.
the puppets, kind of undead that you would
No,
think.
yeah, exactly. Nagash is just raising skeletons and like zombies.
Okay.
The Tomb Kings are the guys who are fighting Nagash.
Okay. I see.
This is when they are all flesh and blood, basically
Hmm.
Egyptians.
Got it.
So they basically started like attritioning down the city, trying to get at Nagash on the inside and his basically his followers.
Hmm.
So basically they shot at him. One person actually managed to get a good shot on Nagash on his shoulder and managed to wound him that even though he had the elixir of immortality, it didn't quite properly heal.
Mm.
But didn't matter. I mean, he lost the battle. Archon basically held the line just so Nagash could escape. Everyone thought Nagash died in that battle. And he was like, whoever so much as disturbs me in my death, I will curse you from beyond the grave. Don't touch me.
So
So
he's
all the
basically like,
Nekaharans,
I did it, but if you guys do it, you're no, you're bad.
not even that, he's just warning them that if anyone, like, he doesn't give a shit that he's dying because he got a spear thrown in his chest.
Hmm.
He gives a shit if anyone tries to touch him in his undeath because he'd be like, I'm going to curse the shit out of you if you so much as even touch me.
Mm.
And all of the Nekaharans and Kemrians were like, I ain't really in a rush to go and touch that. But they grabbed every other one of Nagash's followers and
Mm.
all of Nagash's stuff and just started burning it. Whatever they can get their hands on, they just burnt to this ground. They tried destroying the pyramid, but it was too big and labor intensive, so they just left it.
I mean, yeah, it's like saying, it'd be like trying to destroy the pyramids of Giza. Like, I'm sure plenty of people could, but
It's not
why,
worth the
why,
effort. I
why
mean, they
bother?
tried. You know they actually tried that in history, like one
Yeah,
during the.
that's what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, so Nagash got out, basically ran into the desert. Oh, and during the battle, I forgot to mention this, but Nagash's wife, Thutep's wife,
Hmm.
more specifically, died. So it broke the ancient pact between the Kemrians and the gods.
Oh, how nice.
So this fucked up their magic, but not only that, it fucked up their afterlife
Mm.
because they needed that pact with the gods to basically get into their version of heaven.
Okay.
Without it, they're basically wandering around trying to find heaven without like it's like going through a fog and you see a lighthouse and the gods are constantly manning it, but with her death,
Hmm.
that lighthouse is gone. So they're aimless. All the spirits are aimlessly wandering around.
There wasn't anybody else to be married.
No, apparently not. She was the last.
Oh, how
This
nice.
broke the covenant. So basically, he already fucked over their afterlife.
Not
So
only
he
did he have
want.
to screw up his family, he was intent on, screwing up his entire culture.
Oh, this is not even the worst of what he's going to be doing to this culture. Trust me. Like, if it just ended here, that would have been bad. But Nagash is gonna fuck up his culture and his civilization even worse.
Oh man.
Like Nagash does not take L's lightly, much less from an entire nation or gods. Like Nagash is spiteful to the core. So he ran into the desert and he was like on the cusp of death, like hot, like vultures were following him, coyotes just waiting for him to drop dead. So one night, he actually managed to die. Like he died out in the wastes, and
Hmm.
there was his brother's soul. Like in this, basically, imagine a mist, and your brother's soul just comes out to you and says, "Hey, fucker!" And then like an entire army of people shows up with like bats and crowbars and steel chains. Like we've been waiting for you, asshole.
It's like
And the
that one
guy's just
meme
like,
with the three guys kicking him, then the fourth person walks up and it starts kicking him as
"Y-
well.
exactly. That's actually what happened.
That's
They
good.
literally all started to jump Nagash basically in limbo.
Hmm.
The next morning, Nagash woke up and revived himself by sheer willpower and was like, "Oh, dying was awful. I was just getting jumped," and then just proceeded to start walking the desert again.
Hmm.
At this point, like his body was already like sloshing off the meat
Ugh.
because like he was just a skelly boy by the time he
Hmm.
got to this, with some meat, with pieces of meat left. He eventually found this. I also posted a picture of what he's gonna end up looking like once,
Okay.
you know.
Ah, what a lovely
So,
image.
so yeah, he started walking. Eventually, in the Dark Mountains, he found four Skaven Warpstone scavengers, and Nagash
Oh,
was
it can't be
like,
good.
"Okay, no, 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 it's gonna be great for Nagash." So he's like, "Oh, interesting. I wonder what they're doing. So he pretends to play dead. The four Skaven like approach him thinking he's dead and they're gonna eat him. Nagash wakes up and literally goes like nom 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 nom, bites one of the Skaven's neck and murders the three others. One of them drops like warpstone. And like when he bites down on one of the Skaven, like drinks them, he's like, wow, this Skaven like basically nearly healed me. What the hell's up in these guys' diets? So he checked around. He saw they were carrying warpstone, which is basically like magic uranium.
Mm-hmm.
Skaven love this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So he was like, all right, neat. And then like took a bite out of it. After he took a bite out of it, it cured his incurable gunshot wound from the war. And like bullets started popping out of his body, like plink plink plink, like that one scene in Terminator where the bullets were just popping out of Arnold.
Okay. I see. So he had
So he's getting
his flesh back at this point.
not yeah, or whatever flesh he did have still was just like fully healed. But the consequences was it dulled his vision. It gave him like a really painful sensation, and kind of made him go through a warpstone trip.
Okay.
Like he was tripping
So
balls.
So he's hitting the crystal really.
Really. And once he took that little warpstone trip, he wandered the desert for 139 years, like an undead meth Moses.
Warpstone's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it is. Imagine Moses wandering for that long.
Hmm.
This is like evil undead meth Moses, just constantly going through the desert trying to find his way.
That is an interesting concept.
So yeah, eventually he found this barbarian tribe called the Jaeger. So Nagash knew these people as slaves, essentially. He's like, oh, I remember these people, but they were my slaves. Huh, it's weird not seeing them as slaves. So he basically studied them, tried, like this tribe had a mutated appearance since they were also around a lot of warpstone. He basically found a mountain full of warpstone and then tribe around it also.
Gotcha.
So he took over the place. Like he bonked anyone he needed to, and basically took over the.
I am curious
Yeah.
as to how his undeadness works. Like he just has it. You said he was a lich before, but is it like the normal version where it has like a phylactery, or?
No, Nagash is just the weird. Liches work weird in Warhammer Fantasy. As far as I know, Nagash is the one and only. There's no other pure skeleton lich, which is Nagash. And Nagash basically made his magic is as long as there's magic in the world, Nagash can piece himself together. But or as long as some of his objects also to bring him back. Like there needs to be a ritual, there needs to be something to give him back. Also his pyramid, as long as it exists, also will just bring him back naturally since it just harvests magic to revive him.
Okay.
But of course, every single time Nagash dies, everyone he's ever fucked over, for especially Kebrians, are literally waiting in limbo or the afterlife to kick the shit out of him.
I mean, makes sense to me. It's like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Especially now that they're stuck there because they can't move on.
Exactly. So he was basically watching the barbarians, learned their culture. He took over the magic. He took over the barbarian tribe using his magic. He resurrected the dead of the camp for like manual labor to harvest warpstone.
Yeah.
He also
once you start, you can't stop.
Exactly. He also gained some living followers, so he used that to build his own little base and started making a new domain, like his new area. But he also then saw some
in Warhammer Africa,
basically that little like the African continent. It's mainly in the center, like towards we're getting like the northeastern part or northwest, no northeast towards like.
So towards the Middle East, basically.
Yeah, towards Cathay.
Okay, I see. Towards Asia.
But he took over this monument. I mean, the monument. He took over this fortress and basically called it Nagashi Czar.
Clever.
And yeah, very clever. Now the funny thing
I thought you were
is,
gonna say Nagashistan.
I wish that would have been funny, but no, Nagashazar in Kemrian means the glory of Nagash.
Okay.
So yeah, I know, very subtle. He has the 9 books of
You know what?
Nagash.
Nagash is so humble, man.
I very is. So Nagash basically in this mountain filled with warpstone, he built his new fortress in Nagashazar, and Skaven eventually found out about this. So Nagash had like a 200 and no, not 247, 25-year long war with the Skaven under the mountain, just constantly killing each other for the warpstone.
Well,
Like
yeah.
they would come in, attack his skeletons or some of the living people he has, and he would do the exact same, and then he'd resurrect the Skaven corpses. And this was like a constant attritional warfare. Eventually, they just decided, fuck it, let there be peace. We're gonna mine, you're gonna mine. Now, both the Skaven and Nagash knew this deal was never gonna last.
It's
They
never
both
gonna
knew it was
last.
a thing of convenience, and it's just a game of who's gonna stab the other in the back first. Whoever has the most advantageous position.
Hmm. Basically, who can mine the warp zone the fastest?
Yeah, exactly. He basically hated the Skaven, and he's gonna trust me. His hatred of the Skaven's only gonna increase.
Maybe
The
just one
Skaven have
redeeming quality.
exactly. The Skaven have made it their role in existence to do two things: fuck over the Lizardmen and fuck over Nagash. And they are far better at like dicking over Nagash. Like Nagash throughout the years has had some really brilliant plans, specifically two: one in Age of Sigmar, and no, two, one in Age of Sigmar, two in Warhammer Fantasy. And the Skaven were behind all three of these, basically blowing up in his face. Like it's hilarious. We'll get into the what happened the second time if in the end times video, because that will just be its
Oh
own
god, that's gonna be
series.
a whole thing.
Yep.
From
And
what
then
little I've heard from
one,
you.
yeah, I try to bring up the end times unless I'm bitching about how much I hate it. And we can bring up Age of Sigmar stuff whenever we start doing videos for Age of Sigmar, which
Hmm.
will probably be a while from now. But it's honestly a good idea because Age of Sigmar is relatively a new setting still. So there still needs to be some more lore added.
Okay, I've heard that it's kind of like a soft reboot. Is that true?
It's a not even a soft reboot, it's a complete overhaul.
Okay.
Like characters from Warhammer Fantasy are transplanted over. Like it's the
It's kind
continuation.
of like Warhammer 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Essentially, like they'll use names, concepts, characters, but the not even the world they're standing on is the same one. Like the world that I think it's called Malice is gone.
Okay.
Like it blew
Interesting.
up, rocks fell, everyone died. But
Nice.
on to the continuing the plan. So Nagash at this point was just chilling out in Nagashazar until he got basically psychicked, basically the equivalent of Skype call. And
Okay.
he's like, what the fuck is this? Why am I getting a message all the way out here? Who the fuck can message me? And there was this neck vampire. I'll go more into this later on, like in another video, but just suffice to say,
Hmm.
Nagash learned through this call vampires were a thing. Nagash really wasn't impressed because this chick named Neferata basically discovered how to make vampires by recovering one of his books of Nagash.
Okay, so it's like he did a dissertation on it in college years ago. Someone found it and made vampires out of it.
Yeah, because one of the Tomb Kings, like from the Seven Armies, was like, yeah, kill Nagash, kill Nagash. But honestly, how does that elixir of immortality work?
Hmm.
I'm just gonna steal away some of this stuff. But yeah, we'll discuss more about that king and how vampires were made in another video.
Hmm.
But yeah, he just basically jacked all the stuff and took Arkin's corpse and basically put him in a dungeon and like was talking to Archon to learn everything.
Gotcha. So
But
he
yeah,
he was real. The point is, Nagash is really good at being a necromancer bastard.
but yeah. So Nagash was telepathically being messaged and he learned everything and he was like, interesting, vampires are a thing. Okay. I can use these vampires as my lieutenants. I won't just have to rely on Archon anymore. And he's like, that blood,
And
that needing
Archon's
to
breath
drink
stinks.
Exactly, and Harkin's breath stinks. So he gets with the vampires after they lose their kingdom of Lamia, and they basically join him in Nagash. Nagash is like, all right, it is time to conquer Kemri. So Archon
He's ready now.
and a bunch of vampires basically proceed to bum rush Kemri. The problem here was there was a guy, the king of Kemri, the one after Nagash, I guess, the new one that they elected afterwards, was named Al-Khadizar. Al-Khadizar was a fucking G, a mastermind, a genius, really. But his funny backstory is that he was essentially groomed to be the perfect king by Neferata, the first vampire. Because she's like, yeah, I'm gonna make a high king. I'm gonna make him awesome. He's gonna be like the best. He's gonna be the best king ever. And one of her, I think it was Aberosh, was like, yeah, he's gonna be a great king. By virtue of being a great king, though, he's gonna see the problem with having soul sucking or blood drinking monsters being in charge of the kingdom. He'll definitely revolt against us. And she's like, no, 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 no. I'm gonna groom this kid. He'll be in love with me, and we're gonna rule together, and he's gonna be awesome.
They
So
didn't ever think to
Akadizar,
make him a vampire.
no, because she was gonna make him eventually, but the intention was to have him like ripen, like get to that nice age.
I see. So she's an ultimate groomer, really.
It really she is. Of course, Akadizar was like, as I said, trying to be the best king ever, and he succeeded. And he saw, wow, I really don't like that my people are essentially going to be food for these monsters. And basically was like, all right, all of Kemri, we're gonna kick Nagash and his homies' asses.
Ah, yes,
So
King Chad.
exactly, King Chad. So Khalizar fought off the basically the legions of vampires and skeletons because this time the Kemrians weren't really scared of skeletons, and they were like, "Huh, we thought we got rid of Nagash," but Nagash basically became a boogeyman at this point in Kemrian society.
Hmm.
So to them, it was basically just saying like, "I don't know, if Funny Mustache Man from World War II basically got up, everyone in Europe would like dogpile's location."
Yeah, I gotcha. So basically, what you're saying is that this kid, King Chad, he's kind of like, it's not a phase, Mom. I don't like being goth and a vampire.
Exactly, that's exactly what happened.
That's really funny. Okay,
Yeah,
continue.
Khalizar was not having it.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
Khalizar kicked Nagash's ass. Nagash ran away,
Hmm.
and Nagash was really spiteful at this point. He's like, I lost again. I don't take L's. So he basically got this Skaven to
We'll take it
poison the
as a support,
equivalent.
but
Yeah, but he always manages to really mess up a nation whenever he does. So Nagash was like, hey, Skaven, here's a truckload of warpstone. I want you to poison the equivalent of the Nile.
oh God.
So they did,
Mm.
and basically destroyed Kemrian society. Like people were just dying off, animals were mutating, the plants were just not growing as well as they used to. Like it was
How
still
petty.
at least livable.
He's like, if I can't rule it, no one can.
Exactly. Honestly, Nagash was so pissed that he was mad. It was said that he raged for 7 days as nights. His voice trembled across the fortress and the tunnels, causing quakes.
Drama queen.
Like, yeah, he really is. But after the plague did its job and like because he also sent out a plague, like he didn't just poison the river, he also poisoned everybody.
Full stop.
Exactly. So after basically the entire nation was brought to its knees, he sent in another army to mop up what resistance there was, and Nagash captured Al-Khadizar.
Hmm.
So he's like, "Great, I got you, bitch," and he dragged him to in chains like Nagashazar. And Nagash thought there, "Yes, I have the perfect plan. I'm going to use Al-Khadizar as the focus for my new spell. I'm going to use a spell to murder literally everything in Nekahara, and then I'm gonna rise the undead, or I'm gonna rise the dead from everywhere across the planet." Like just full on
I always
mass
feel like
res.
that's not a great plan.
For everyone that isn't Nagash, it is a great plan.
I guess that's
Or
true.
isn't a great plan.
And no, we're not
But
talking about
Nagash,
must have been a great plan.
yeah, so Nagash is basically using a spell through Alcatizar in a little cage. Now, the Skaven already have been keeping eyes on Nagash. And they were, and this, in one of the, this is literally the only time this ever happened in the lore, by the way, or at least into the end times, but their writing's awful. The Skaven were so terrified of what Nagash is doing. Not only did all three members of the Council of 13, the Skaven's ruling body, all agree that they need to stop him, which is already like rare as fuck. Like Skaven all unanimously agreeing like we need to do one thing is just doesn't happen. Much less what I'm gonna say right now. They said, "Hey, we're gonna ally with Alcatizar and we're gonna stop Nagash." Alcatizar was just sitting in his cage, basically saying, "Wow, I failed my kingdom, my people, the world." Skaven came in, is like, "Hey, Broseph, don't ask questions. Don't even pretend to like me. I don't like you for sure. By the way, here's this magic knife made out of pure warpstone. We want you to murder Nagash. And here, we even open the gate, so go ahead and do your human thing." Alcatizar is like, "What's the catch?" They're like, "There's no catch. Just kill Nagash." But seriously, what's the catch? There's no catch. We promise. Just please murder Nagash.
I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't trust a Skaven either.
To be honest, that's not even a wrong thing to do. Skaven don't trust Skaven.
God, God, the rage I feel for Skaven is immense, but they're apparently saving the day here.
Yeah, they
I'm not
really are.
happy about. I'm not happy about it.
So this is Alcatizar. After he basically at this point, Alcatizar has been in the dungeon for a couple days, like tortured, the shit kicked out of him by Nagash. Like Nagash has made his stay there very pleasant. So Alcatizar just made a bum rush for Nagash's throne room because Nagash was so full of himself. Like he was like, "Oh, we're in the center of my castle. If I'm getting attacked, then I'll summon my guards. I'll be completely fine."
Mm-hmm.
So Nagash is prepping his spell, and Akadizar just jumps in and slices his hand and disrupts the spell. Of course, this didn't fully stop the spell. I mean,
Well, I mean,
it
it's a Skaven plan, so
well, it wasn't due to anyone's fault really. They just didn't get there fast enough.
gotcha.
But by this point, the spell already did part of its intended effect. This spell wiped out all life in Kemri and Nekahara.
Oh man.
Just all the kingdoms, all the people, all the plants, all the animals, all the vegetation gone, dead and risen.
Oh wait, so that's why is that why it's a desert?
Exactly.
Yep. Okay, that's kind of clean. Well,
Yeah, so
I mean, clean, but
it's cool.
not good for them.
Yeah, so everyone's dead and risen. But by the time when Al-Qadisar stopped Nagash, the spell basically didn't fully complete because it didn't revive all the dead across the planet, and Kemri basically didn't weren't under the control of Nagash. They
Okay,
were
so
all
this is
basic
why they're not, puppets.
exactly. They retain all their memories, all their experiences. But depending on how preserved the corpse are, is how much like more intelligent and autonomy they have. So
I see.
with like certain tomb kings who were mummified and bodies well preserved, their intelligence is much more greater than the common soldier.
Makes sense.
So another issue that this knife had was it basically was killing Alcatizar.
Well, yeah, it's
Like
like here's a nuke in a knife form. I hope you don't get radiation poisoning.
so yeah, exactly. So basically he was using the warpstone knife to fight Nagash with, and Nagash was trying to cast magic after his arm was cut off. But the Skaven came in and were literally using their own magic to try to prevent Nagash from killing Akadizar, even if it meant their own deaths.
Hmm.
Like this is like we have never seen the Skaven cooperate, much less act in unison this much.
Hmm.
The Skaven were risking their lives to help a non-Skaven. That's how bad things were and how close Nagash was to victory.
Hmm.
But yeah, eventually Alcatizar won the fight. Alcatizar took the crown of Nagash as a trophy and then just daggered off. And then fucking the Skaven came in and tore Nagash's body to pieces.
Okay.
And then basically after they tore it to pieces, they grabbed it and threw it into a warpstone fire. Except for the right hand, which is the one that Khadizar cut off. That
Okay.
just crawled away.
And with that, evil was allowed to endure, wasn't it?
Yes, essentially. Nagash's 9 books were lost. All the vampires that were there basically pissed off and it went, well, fuck Nagash. He's an awful boss anyway. And they also didn't really much like each other anyway. So they all went to go form their own bloodlines and infiltrate human society. Some started kingdoms, some infiltrated human societies. Abarash decided, well, fuck, I hate really being a vampire. I'm gonna just go beat up monsters and protect the little guy.
Kind of based, actually.
Yeah, no, Abarash is great. He is my favorite character that is not currently. Scratch that. Nagash, Neferata, and Abarash is my 3 legendary lords that I really want in the game that are not in the game.
Mm-hmm.
All death characters, but I know at best I'm only gonna get 2.
Yeah, they don't seem to add that many characters to Total Warhammer 3.
That's because the game's still relatively new. They always come out with 2 per DLC, but the Undead have only
Yeah,
ever gotten
that's
1
true.
DLC. And they
Gotcha.
gave it to, and one of the DLCs was given to like I don't even remember his name, but he was a complete nobody who was only had like a page or a paragraph of lore
Hmm.
instead of like all the other undead legendary lords they could have chosen.
I
But my
gotcha.
butt hurt aside. So all of Nagash's stuff was basically scattered across the winds.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing with the blade that it also did to Nagash was permanently weaken him also. Every single time Nagash revives from this point, he's weaker than his previous incarnation. Of
Okay, so
course, he's
it kind of
also still getting
hurt him for
bodied
his
in the
strength.
yeah, he's also getting bodied every single time he goes into the afterlife. Because
Mm-hmm.
also another consequences of all the Tomb Kings being revived from their graves is Tomb Kings have a weird how do I say this? They have a weird tradition where when a king dies, his entire army is buried with him.
Understandable.
So
Okay.
imagine at this point in history, you're a tomb king. You're dead. You've been dead like thousands of years. You're
Mm-hmm.
rising along with your entire like army and like with your under your pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
But tomb kings have been doing this for like 1,000 years. So while you're being revived, all these other tomb kings are also being revived simultaneously as you.
So
And
it's
then
like
gets like, I'm the
who's in
rightful ruler
control
of
of the
this plot of
kingdom?
land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in charge of this plot of land. And then everyone else goes, the fuck are you on about, bitch? I was King Amonok the 25th, and I've been owning this land for like 500 years before you. Well, yeah, I'm Chataka of the first dynasty. I was owning it 1,000 years before you. So it just became a big, massive battle royale.
It's like that two-way Spider-Man meme where they point at each
It,
other.
exactly. So the Tomb Kings basically got in an eternal civil war, kicking the absolute shit out of each other. And of course,
Lovely.
yeah, the funny thing is, they basically, this is a lot of their lore is this. But they were basically what's the word? They can revive themselves. Like no matter how badly their bodies are destroyed, as long as a piece of it's recovered, they can regenerate it. So, oh, we lost like 1,000 dudes. That's no problem. Just grab the corpses and they'll be right back up tomorrow.
Gotcha. And who's doing the reviving?
Oh, the mortuary cult.
Okay, so that's still a thing.
Yeah, the mortuary cult basically was like, shit, fuck the cash and fuck vampires. So that
Gotcha.
the Tomb Kings are like the ultimate vampire haters in all of Warhammer Fantasy. Well, they hate the undead, which is ironic, seeing that they're essentially a race of undead.
Yeah.
I'll go more into their history, but in another video. But yeah, essentially that's what happened with Nagash. Fucked up that spell.
Hmm.
A lot of Nagash's stuff was thrown to the winds,
And so is
and
that pretty much all of Nagash lore for rest of
no, there's
Fantasy?
one last good piece of it.
Ooh.
Basically about 1,111 years, and Nagash's crown of sorcery essentially ended up with Sigmar.
That is an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, Sigmar by this point was already emperor of the empire. Like he just finished constructing it. He already went through one massive war with Chaos, and like Sigmar was getting corrupted by the crown
Hmm.
to be a dick.
As you
But
do.
one day, Nagash woke up and realized that his crown was in the possession of Sigmar. And Nagash was like, "Oh hell no! Who the fuck are you? Where the fuck am I? Doesn't matter. You're gonna die." And Sigmar's like, "Who the fuck are you?" And Nagash is like, "I'm Nagash, the necromancer, the first and only lich," and blah 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 blah. And Sigmar's like, "Oh, that's just a myth. No way you're actually him." And Nagash is like,
Interesting.
"You want to bet?" So Nagash and Sigmar are getting into a fight, and like Nagash is still stronger than Sigmar by virtue of having magic. So Sigmar baits Nagash with the crown,
Hmm.
and he's like, "Here, take it." And Nagash is, "Well, why, thank you." And then he just at this point just fucking hits Nagash because Nagash was like, "Oh, he finally realized who his better was. Thank you very much." And Nagash is like, and Sigmar's like, "I can't believe that fucking worked." Smash. Like the crown was protecting Sigmar, so he was pretty
Hmm.
like it was a feint. It will not. It was just a gambit.
Hmm.
He did not. If Nagash really just if Sigmar didn't have the crown of Nagash
Hmm.
and basically baited Nagash with it, Sigmar it was doubtful Sigmar would have won, but he did, and thus Nagash was dead for like another 1,666 years until the end times.
Seems like it's always something he did, or he seems like he's usually the cause of his own downfall.
He really is. Like he gets up into stuff. When the funny thing is, I'll give a short tidbit of what happens in the end times.
Hmm.
But in the end times, when Nagash is revived again, um, apparently this time when he was getting like his Rock'em Sock'em roboted in the afterlife,
Hmm.
he managed to go and eat all the Tomb King's gods,
Well,
and then basically basically jump started his process into becoming a god himself.
that
And
is
like,
generally how that works in fantasy.
yeah, his resurrection was so intimidating. At one point, I won't explain why, but the Chaos Gods for sure thought they were about to lose and were like seriously contemplating, should we just surrender to Nagash and just say we're fucked? Like
It's not often you
Nagash,
see the Chaos Gods brought to heel in this universe.
exactly.
That's
Like
unfortunate.
I can't even think of that many times it's ever happened, but Nagash is the first as I know it. No, wait, he's the second. You know, the only other person to make the fucking Chaos Gods like either contemplate surrendering or basically begging was Anarian the Defender,
Hmm.
which is like the most Chad high elf to ever exist. But he made them beg because he was about to pick up a cursed sword and was about to wreck a lot of unholy ass.
Is
The
that the
Chaos
Sword of
Gods
Cain?
basically, oh yeah, that's the sword of Cain. Basically, Anarian the Defender picked it up. All the Chaos Gods literally sent representatives, and even the High Elf Gods sent representatives.
It sounds so silly seeing like those things parlay with someone.
Oh yeah, it was because they were terrified of fucking Anarian grabbing the sword. It got so bad, like I'm not even joking. The High Elven Gods joined in with the Chaos Gods and were like, "Please, Anarians, don't pick up that sword for the love of God. Don't pick it up. Don't pick it
Jeez.
up." Everyone's like in it screaming, "Anarian, no!" And then
He's like, I'm gonna do it.
yeah, then Kane, he's like, "Yes, do it, my boy, do it. Let's go." And everyone's like, "Shut the fuck up, Kane." That'll be a story for another time because I fucking love the
I'm ready
it,
for it.
yeah, no, the K just was a very happy boy the nanosecond that all that Anarian pick up that damn sword. But back to Nagash. But yeah, Nagash almost made the Chaos God surrender. He had a brief tussle with Sigmar.
It's kind of all over the
Uh,
place.
yeah,
As
he
far as a big bad of a universe goes, he's pretty solid.
yeah, Nagash is I consider one of the big three of threats.
Hmm.
It's always, if there's like an end of the world scenario, it's either gonna be Chaos, Skaven, or Nagash related,
Yeah.
which is impressive because Nagash is the only one that isn't like a god. He's the most humble origins. Skaven are a plague of disgusting rats. Chaos gods are like outer god beings, and Nagash was just a random asshole who was
Some random
born
dude whose spite was just too much for this world.
exactly. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. Nagash will always do things. In Age of Sigmar,
Hmm.
Nagash is still God. He's doing a lot of things there, but I'll get into that another time.
Yeah.
I'll just discuss about his role in the tabletop game.
Hmm.
He's a really fucking good model.
Yeah.
You base
You say that about a lot of things though.
he's true, but I'm gonna show you his model.
Hmm.
But I'm talking about his rules. He costs the last time I remember, he costs about 1,000 points. Can cast all a shit ton of magic. I think he has an ability that he can, if one unit's in melee with him, he can grab that unit and insta kill it. Like you don't even get to roll anything. It's just
Well, I have
you
no
you
context of the game, so.
true, but just imagine a rule like, all right, I'll put it in total Warhammer sense. Imagine just a unit attacks Nagash.
Hmm.
Nagash can be like, okay, I'm gonna do an RNG button and I'm gonna melt that many
I'm gonna
dudes
end this
for
man's whole career.
exactly for daring to touch me, Nagash. I imagine when Nagash gets like, they're gonna have to add Nagash in Total Warhammer 3. I really don't believe that they can't add him or won't add him. The dude's popular.
Hmm.
Like
I can see why.
I don't do him justice by telling his story is such in like such a concise manner because there's a lot more detail to it,
Oh, I'm sure.
a lot more politicking. I'm just
Hmm.
giving the run through, but he is such a he's fun because of how much of an asshole he is. He is a pleasure to watch the crap getting kicked out of him.
It's like one of those characters you love to hate.
Exactly. That's why Nagash has always been like always been a part of Warhammer Fantasy.
Hmm.
He's just fun.
Yeah.
What there's only like two characters Nagash even slightly respects, and one of them is an enemy. Like
Hmm.
the first one, Cetra, the first Tomb King. No, the greatest Tomb King, not the first.
Hmm.
He was the greatest Tomb King. Nagash respects him. They got into a bit of a tussle during the end time, and the only other someone person he respects is Arkin the Black, his number two. Weirdly enough, no matter where Nagash is, he'll like Arkin the Black is not far behind.
Yeah, I'm sure they've got some kind of magical setup to make that happen.
Not even that, like Arkin wonders at certain times, like, am I really loyal to Nagash or am I just a puppet? Doesn't even matter which of it is. I'm just tired of this.
Man, Archon sounds like such a mood character, dude.
He really is. I will. Oh my god, he's my. I know I say this a lot for the undead factions, but he is one of my favorite undead characters.
Yeah,
A lot of my, oh,
I don't, I think that is that a top 50? Like at this point, I
yeah,
don't know what his
top
currently
50.
is.
I at least have a top five. Archon would definitely be in the top three because he's a better person than Nagash, and he's willing to really see a bigger picture than Nagash. But he also
Hmm.
follows Nagash because he's like, Nagash has the strength to actually go the distance. I really don't.
Hmm.
And Nagash has a plan to defeat Chaos. I really
Hmm.
don't.
You know,
Like,
honestly, that's fair. If
like
if if chaos is a big concern for you, I could totally see that.
exactly. Like Ark in the Black just puts up with Nagash because not that he really has to, but he just sees him as a better option than Chaos
Hmm.
Gods,
Gotcha.
and he views him as inevitable anyway.
Hmm.
So why not just help him out? And for some reason, any single time Nagash has ever died, one of the first things he always does is just scream out for Arkin. He's like, Arkin, get over here, Devin. We have to plan to take over the world again. Arkin. There was at one point in
It's
Age
like
of
the
Sigmar where
kid's
this
brain. The same
exactly.
thing we do
There's
every day, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
at one point in Age of Sigmar where Nagash was screaming out for Arkin the Black. Neferhot is like, does he not remember that Arkin's like dead at this moment? and he's just wailing and screaming, Arcane, I know you're here, you bitch. Can't you see I need a plan? And
It's good.
everybody's just like, fuck, I don't want to be the one to tell him that he's not here. What is he gonna do to me?
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, that's the Skelly Pope, our boy Nagash, and a lot of his misadventures.
Well, I
He,
really enjoyed this one. You
all
know,
right.
um, Warhammer lore is kind of your thing, and I'm glad you were able to share it with me. I think the next thing I'm going to do, since you shared, a big undead character, is I think I'll have to pick out a really lore-intensive undead character from Elder Scrolls, which is
Oh,
my thing, and I think I'll have to present that to you.
I look forward to it.
I have a feeling we're gonna do the Under King.
I know nothing about this Under King. I wait, scratch that. What did he not? Was he in Oblivion? Was he?
We
No, that was
might
the
know
worm
him
guy.
with a different name, Talos.
Wait, what? Talos is a necromancer?
Well,
Okay, now.
no. So I said undead. I didn't say that they were a necromancer, but we'll get
Okay,
into it.
now you have my interest. That's gonna be fun for next week.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well,
All right.
thanks for everybody for listening. If you listened to us through the end here, I think we're about just a little over an hour. Maybe with editing it'll be a little less, but we'll see. Um, and just yes, like, subscribe, all that stuff.
Talk to you guys next time. Have a good one.